never thought I would be making this video because I never thought I would be someone who had multiple planners. I'm gonna walk you guys through how I kind of determined how many planners I needed. And so this video is gonna be for anyone who is new to planning, anyone who may be curious or conflicted by all the planner options, and anyone who's just trying to find out how many books may work best for them. If you asked me 6 months ago if I would have had 2 books, I would have told you, hell no, but here we are. Before we start, I'm just gonna break down a couple different categories. This is gonna help us later on. So usually when we use a notebook or planner, we use it for 3 main areas in our life. So for most people, that is going to be for their personal needs, work, and some sort of hobby or reflection. Personal, we're gonna think about things like health tracking, appointments, goals and habits. This could be journaling, just your general scheduling, time management. All of your personal needs are going to fall in this category. And for the work category, this is gonna be stuff like scheduling, tasks, goals, productivity, things like that. Those are usually what people are using their planners for when it comes to their work and careers. All right, and then when we move into the hobbies, this could be anything from reflection, some sort of creative expression. This also can be a space for you to just decompress from all the productivity that you are working on. Another outlet for brain dumping, memory keeping, journaling, stuff like that. Brain dumping, commonplacing, and memory keeping, these kind of can go either way. This can be very personal for you, or it can be a hobby. If this list looks a little bit different for you, feel free to make your own and customize it to best fit your needs. You could also be someone who uses your planner for school. So if there's any other functions in here that I didn't mention, feel free to customize it to make your own. But this is kind of the most general list of what people are using notebooks for. So now that we have these, we're gonna move into step 1. And step 1 is pretty simple, and all we're gonna do is we're just gonna list the pros and cons of having one notebook versus multiple. We are going to put our pros on this left side and our cons on the right side. And we're gonna start with one book. So some of the most common, and these are going to be pretty general, and what I list as a pro may be a con for you. So again, if you don't necessarily agree with what I write down, feel free to make your own chart and use it to best fit your wants and needs. But these are kind of the most general or the most common ones you're going to see in the planner community. So you may have seen these come up in videos that you watch and reviews and things like that. So that's why I am choosing to put them in each of these categories. The most common pros for having one planner versus multiple is going to be simplicity, consistency, portability, focus, reduced cost. Those are kind of the most common pros when it comes to one book. Cons for having one planner can be it's limiting, it can be overwhelming. There could also be a lack of specialization and or separation. And then the final con for one book can sometimes just be boredom. Ooh, I don't know how to spell this. I don't know if that's how you spell boredom. Now we are going to list our pros and cons for multiple. And when I think multiple books, I'm thinking 2 to 3. I know there's some people that have like stacks of 7 to 10 planners. I don't even know how I would separate that out, so I can't give advice on that. So when I'm talking multiple books, I'm kind of referring to just 2 or 3. But again, feel free to tailor this to your needs. So when we talk about multiple books, some of the pros for that can be specializations. There's a lot of flexibility, variety, and have a backup book, which is helpful, and then reduced overwhelm. And then our cons for multiple books are going to be bulk, cost, maintenance, inconsistency, possible redundancy, or potential confusion. Our next step is going to hopefully mitigate this if you do choose multiple books, but this is a possibility if you go into multiple planners without some sort of game plan. Step 1 is listing our pros and cons for one versus multiple books. Step 2 is going to be just focusing on the pros. So we're going to ignore the cons right now, and you are just going to look at the pros of both one book and multiple books. What you're going to do is between these two lists of pros, which one of these sounds the most practical, appealing, and sustainable for you in a planner? So if you use me for an example, when looking at these two lists of pros, this is the one that appeals to me the most. This is what I am lacking in just having my one current book, and these are the things I'm kind of craving in my planning and creative expression. I'm going to move forward with this group. I have decided that multiple books might be beneficial for me right now. And step 3 is based on what choice you make, we are going to look at the cons and determine how we are going to mitigate those and how are we going to tackle these possible barriers in our planning. For using me for an example, I've chosen multiple books. These are the possible cons and barriers that could come up for me when I move from one planner to two. Based on the list of cons, you're just going to go through and see which ones you think would create a barrier for you. If we use me, bulk, not really a barrier for me. I don't mind an extra book. And if we're using the Hobonichi Weeks, not really that much extra bulk. Cost isn't gonna be something I'm worried about because I've already budgeted out. Maintenance might be a possible barrier. I don't think inconsistency will be a problem because I'm wanting to have more separation, so I'm comfortable with that. I don't think I'm gonna be confused, but I might run into some possible redundancy. So these are my two possible barriers that could come up when I move into two planners. Now moving forward, which is essentially step 4, is just practice and figuring out a system to make sure that we can handle these two cons if they come up. And this is going to be really individual to everybody. There's so many different avenues you could take this, and I have a lot of other videos on my channel that kind of help you navigate some of these common issues. And while we're talking about that, if this is helpful for you in these videos, you find valuable, it really helps me to have your feedback, whether it's negative or positive. My channel is in its infancy, and so I like to joke that I'm like really bad at YouTube, and so all the possible feedback that I could get really helps me kind of tailor my content to best help you guys. Whether it's liking this video, if you don't have the time to make a comment, that's totally fine. Subscribing really helps me figure out if what I am doing is helping you guys. I use a lot of my analytics to plan my content and plan what people are needing help with. So any feedback is welcome. Just want to throw that out there. When we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of these cons, these pros and cons, I have a lot of other videos on my channel that help. I never want these videos to be too long and too complicated because then I think it can just get very overwhelming. I am someone who definitely goes down the rabbit hole of like self-help. I will like binge or hyperfixate on videos just like this, and then I've watched 10 videos and then I'm still just like wait, what did I even just watch? So I want this to be as simple as possible. This is what I used to determine that multiple books would work better for me currently than just one book. Your needs and wants throughout the year could change. They could ebb and flow, at any moment. And maybe 2 months from now, I don't want a second book and I just want to go back to one. And I just want to preface that that's completely fine. And your books are here to serve you. You are not here to like serve this book. Like this book is not going to have hard feelings if you don't, write in it every single day. And if your books aren't benefiting you, then there's always room for improvement to kind of tweak them and fit them best to your needs. So if you do this activity and you have made your decision, either way, that's when we move back to these functions and we just need to decide how we are going to make these work in the book. If you're moving from one to multiple, that might be how are you going to delegate these or separate these out into multiple books. Maybe you need to downsize from multiple to one book. If that's the case, then how are you going to take these multiple kind of components of your life and tailor them down to something that is sustainable and functional for you. It's good to always keep this in mind. I think these things can be really helpful if you're going from one book to two, because you can see what makes the most sense for you to separate out. For me, I kind of have personal and work in this book. I do a lot of my hobby stuff in my cousin as well. I do a lot of journaling. I have a lot of artistic like expression and hobbying in here. But for me, I was just wanting even more separation from that. So for me, it made sense to put personal and work in here, and then more of my hobby and, you know, kind of more fun stuff in here. So this is always good to have on the back end, just so you can see what exactly is needing to go where. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.